a Graves on one side of the Rift, and then something like a Nidalee or a Lilia on the opposite end.
Yeah, it definitely could be the Zoe and Nidalee coming in. We have to remember, Kanavi, career-wise, over 78% win rate on Nidalee, and Zoe for Yagao last split was, I think it was over 83%. So very, very high win rate champions. You almost never see these two champions actually given over to JD Gaming, but they're not actually going to go for the Nidalee just yet. They're going to go for the Graves trap once more.
Yeah, but still, with the Olaf and Pantheon band away, at least they do have a really strong mid-jungle 2v2, right? You have the mixed damage coming out, so hopefully Zoe will be able to enable this quite well. And with EDG picking up the likes of a Renekton, again, you could see something like the Nidalee come out, and there it is for Jiejie.
Just such an easy kill combination to execute. You use the Ruthless Predator, you stun the top laner in place, very easy tower dive to do, and once again, we're going to see the tried and true dynamic between Flandre and Zoom. Typically, it has been Flandre that has been trying to be the more aggressive one, trying to be the split pusher, while Zoom sort of absorbs the pressure and then shows up in team fights.
And I'd like them to just go with a sturdy frontliner, and they do just lock in the Ornn, right? You already know that EDG are going to be putting a ton of attention towards the top lane, so pick something up that can, you know, get some early defensive stats, absorb all that pressure, and even potentially just play with your mid laner in Yagao, and then start trying to punish EDG on that side of the map when you do have something like the Call of the Forge God up to facilitate all that damage coming out from mid-jungle.
I do wonder if EDG is going to take away Jhin right here. It is one of Loken's best champions. Even though the Kaisa matchup is favorable for Kaisa, I feel like this is a situation where frontline, double poke, potential pick coming in from JDG. They're just way too comfortable on that composition, and I would love to see that Jhin just taken off the table.
I definitely expect to see Jhin or Misfortune come out. The fact that both are still open means he'll at least get one of them, and the thing about these AD carries, though, is they've both been very versatile in what they've picked. Of course, we saw Loken pick up the Vayne, and they did 3v5 BLG with that pick, but Viper has also been playing absolutely everything. Kaisa, Xayah, Misfortune, Samira, you name it, he has played it. So, again, EDG now, I'd like to see the Jhin ban like you said, but then I expect JDG to feel comfortable maybe just picking up something like the Misfortune.
It is the Xayah actually being taken away. This is an interesting one because they have some poke of their own. Don't necessarily have to walk into JD Gaming's composition. They're going to leave that one open. Both the Jhin and Misfortune on the table right here. I think both are pretty suitable options. Misfortune is slightly better in laning phase. But overall, strong front-to-back composition. They're going to have probably another initiation in their support and just a very, very strong double AD composition.
And if you watched in 2020 spring going into 2020 summer, this was the stock and standard tried and true LPL composition. These were like the most picked and best champions in each of their roles. So JDG going back to what is pure comfort.
And on EDG's side, I feel like they're a little bit more skirmish-oriented. They don't really have the front line to match JD Gaming. They do have the laning phase sort of kill threats that we were talking about that synergize very, very well with the Nidalee. So I want to see a little bit more stuns on all three lanes. And Scout's LeBlanc is going to be a treat. This is something that Scout was known for. He's the best LeBlanc in the league. And he also considers this a counter pick to Zoe. So we're finally going to see something different coming out for Scout.
Yeah, and I love this. It sets up with the side lanes that we talked about. Like you said, very skirmish heavy, very brawly. It's about enabling the Nidalee in the early game. And even LeBlanc works as a pseudo poke champion as well, just being able to pop her head over walls and throw out the Sigil of Malice, among other things. So for JDG, they do just go with the Galio support. And Clement, you already highlighted it perfectly for me. JDG, the very clear front-to-back team fight for them. EDG, early game oriented, very skirmish heavy, very brawly. It's about enabling Jiejie, and I think really kind of snowballing off these early game advantages.
This is a very fun composition coming in from both sides. We mentioned it earlier, EDG has been playing front-to-back comps the entire time. They really haven't pivoted to this sort of aggressive skirmish and semi-pick composition before, and this is going to be the first time we see if they can execute with Viper on their team without really focusing on his lane.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, right? Is you have three lanes that could potentially use attention. Of course, Sett, known for those like level 1 or level 2 flashes into the enemy carry to try to burn a flash as well. Renekton is the setup for your Nidalee. LeBlanc, the fact that you are an assassin, you need to go for a lot of heavy trading against Zoe if you do want to come out ahead. So the big question is, where is Jiejie going to invest his time? because all 3 lanes can use attention.
That is the thing about skirmish compositions. If you don't get ahead early, the 5v5s are coming at you fast and hard, and you really can't avoid them in this meta whatsoever. JD Gaming, on the other hand, they're pretty, they're stock in standard. They got the front to back composition. They got exactly everything they wanted, and we have seen them play this very aggressively. I think one great quality about JD Gaming is that they're very willing to turn when they are starting off the objectives first, and this time around they have a lot of tools to do so.
I also really like the Galio pick coming in for LvMao.
Yeah, that we have seen the Galio being used as sort of a protection for your AD carry that you can kind of scale away from. You can keep away LeBlanc from.
Yeah, and, we are going to head on to the Rift, and the highlight matchup we said is in the top lane, but sadly, the fact that we do have an Ornn coming out from Zoom means there probably isn't going to be too much action around there early. Again, you can set up the early ganks before Zoom does buy a lot of resistances for the Nidalee with the point-blank spear, but I feel like a lot of the question marks are going to be around, can Scout get pressure in this mid lane? Despite the fact that he thinks of it as a counter matchup, we have seen it as more skill-oriented. If Yagao can land his Sleepy Trouble Bubble, he will come out ahead in the trade. For Scout, it's all about avoiding that one, landing the chain, popping the Electrocute, backing off, and he will win out in that short burst trade.
And we have seen a lot of times in this matchup, it's about forcing the gap closer away from the opponent and just landing your crowd control after they do so. Both of them have pretty predictable landing spots. They both have the return pad mechanic, as it's called on Lil Wiki, so you can kind of anticipate where they're going to go after the trades are going to happen.
And right now we do see both junglers mirroring their clears, both heading towards that top side. Obviously makes sense for Jiejie, should be able to secure that top side scuttle. Maybe Kanavi thinking he can hover towards mid, get an advantage in the mid jungle 2v2, and then try to contest that top side. And if you can shut down EDG's comp early, win out an early 2v2 or 3v3, then it will be very hard for EDG to come back.
But Viper showcasing some very good mechanics. He actually lands 3 uncontested auto attacks onto Loken, as Loken has to back off because he realized he actually overstepped his range minions, and Meiko could have found a great trade on him.
And just both EDG bot laners realizing, hey, we have the pressure in this lane, we're going to get to level 2 first. Meiko walking forward and pressuring LvMao out of the brush, going to give them a ton of pressure. We already talked about Meiko at any time can look for that flash and try to burn either a cleanse or a flash from Loken himself.
Mid lane trade, we do see Scout with a sizable advantage early on, getting the Electrocute proc and forcing Yagao to go down into a lot of potions right here. Actually, both of them are still on the same count, while Flandre tries to get a good trade onto Zoom. They both come out with rather low HP bars, and that should favor Flandre with the sustain.
And that's what's going to be about, right? You expect Jiejie to play around his top side. I'm wrong. Jiejie and Meiko both wrapping around in mid.
The 3-man coming in. They do land the chains early on, and Yagao looks like there's no escape from him. He does burn a flash that came out from Scout. He holds on to his own natural flash, but that will be first blood for Scout.
And sadly, that's going to prevent Kanavi from looking to be able to contest that topside scuttle if they did win out in that trade. Meiko was there regardless, even if Kanavi was able to show up, but still, great play from Scout. You highlighted this was one of the champions that Scout was known for a lot of his career, and he is doing quite well. Luckily, Kanavi will be able to get the bot side scuttle, but this might not be looking good for Zoom, Clement.
Yeah, Zoom is pretty low HP, and his ward doesn't spot out Jiejie. He doesn't have the reaction time to actually back out from his tower. Does flash away, but Flandre follows the flash as well. Jiejie is still looking to finish off this kill. He's going to find the spear, and the kill does go down. Flandre is able to walk away from this one scot-free as well. It was very close for Zoom. He dropped the ward down, but unfortunately, Jiejie already hit the brush.
And this is why we talked about in the early game before Zoom is able to build those resistances, this is the time that he will be targeted by the side of EDG. Flandre does have to burn his teleport because of the position where the wave is. It is on Zoom's side. It didn't completely crash into Zoom's tower, so... But the fact that both TPs are burned means there's no necessary threat of like forced 5v4 or 4v3 dives on the bot side of the map from either team.
And I do want to mention that LPL Renektons are not immune from the matchup. From what we've seen, Ornn does win the games against Renekton about 65, 67% of the time. It's actually a fairly bad matchup for the Renekton. But the reason that so many LPL teams still are willing to pick the Renekton into the Ornn is just because of the early priority, and with the jungle and with the setup here, it is something that EDG is willing to go into for. The question is, can they actually find Scout overextending? Yagao goes in, but Scout knows that there's something wrong here. He doesn't fall for the bait. He walks off.
And we've seen Yagao just benefiting a lot from the drops he's gotten for his W, right? Things like the Cleanse, things like the Ignite, where he's able to play this far forward, and it's enabling Kanavi to come in Jiejie's jungle and steal the Wolves.
Very quick 1-2 punch from Kanavi. He knows that he has a mid laner advantage here. Jiejie is going to chase up, but doesn't find the pounce just yet. Kanavi able to slide out of that one. And we're seeing a lot of action in these 2v2s like you mentioned, but surprisingly Yagao coming up with a very sizable CS lead.
And I mean, he just picked up a heal as well, Clement. He's feeling good. It's a good gambling day for Yagao, so EDG going to stay away from that mid lane and start hovering around top. Might put some pressure onto Kanavi, but I don't necessarily feel like EDG can really do anything to him here other than stealing away some baby Krugs.
He doesn't even get the small ones either. Jiejie is spotted out very quickly by the ward from Zoom, and we're going to see another poke from Yagao, as you just mentioned, holding onto their summoner galores. I'm also so happy that in the next patch we aren't going to get redemption at least.
True, but Clement, when was the last time you saw LvMao in lane? He's been mid for what seems like the past 5 minutes.
Hey, that's the LvMao way, man. Like, who cares about ADCs in this matchup, you know? You just leave Loken to be... let's be honest, we all kind of penciled out Loken as kind of losing this lane, and Viper and EDG having the bottom side advantage. And frankly, this is just what JDG have been playing with all these years. But enough with that. JD Gaming are going to find a skirmish into their own blue side. This is about them trying to defend while 3 members are collapsing in. We do see the smite go down, and it does look like Jiejie, despite taking the ignite, will walk away with the level advantage with the EXP and the blue buff.
And it's so nice to see EDG understanding how to play around their side lane pryos with their Nidalee, right? We're seeing Jiejie constantly invade on side lanes. Kanavi's trying to answer with the pressure he's been getting through mid. But ultimately, when you do have these 2 winning sides for Jiejie, he just does have a lot more options. It's going to lead into the stolen blue buff, all the river vision that EDG has, as well as this Mountain Drake.
And whenever we've seen a Nidalee 2-0, the games have usually been incredibly fast. Nidalee is probably the best snowballing champion that we've seen in the game so far. LvMao trying to check for some stragglers and trying to interrupt recalls, but he takes half his HP for that one. Is there any stopping the Nidalee from this point? Like, in all the Nidalee games we've seen, once it goes to an early 2-0, oh, wait a minute, but LvMao is actually going to get tagged up right here. He's going to go down, but Loken finds a great bullet time, is able to cancel out. They trade the supports 1 for 1 onto each other, and this one should just sort of fizzle out.
I feel like going back to your last question, the answer is, I mean, right, all the cards are with EDG. If they can snowball properly, then, I mean, from this point forward, the game does feel like it's completely in their hands. The problem with that, though, is we kind of set up, hey, they are on a bit of a timer in a sense compared to JDG's comp. One mistake can make it very hard to play when you are playing champions like Nidalee, Renekton, and LeBlanc. So, harder execution for EDG, but if they keep going at this pace, as we see here on our screen, even with their bot lane, nice pick coming in from Meiko and Viper. Still does get traded 1 for 1 in the end, but still, EDG comfortably in control.
And we're going to see the Herald fight started out here by EDG. They do have mid and top lane priority. Both lanes should be able to get here first. In the meantime, JDG have already sent their support to join into the fray. This is going to be a big LPL-style brawl. As we see the 8-man coming in, the Herald is already very low. Yagao's trying to find an angle. Flandre actually fashes in, gets the 3-man Call of the Meek. A lot of damage being traded right here. Scout already chasing for the kills. Kanavi does go down. Zoom is low HP. Yagao trying to help his top laner, but the Dumpling brothers are going to be separated by a gray screen. EDG not only win with the priority, they also find the picks to go with it.
EDG just having stronger members right now, it is going to lead them into a Herald, and when you talk about their composition, it does have options where they can drop it. I do think theoretically you just would want to drop it top. You have the Renekton Nidalee start breaking down that tower so Flandre can start hovering around the rest of the map. But the fact that Viper and Meiko have been able to start finding their own advantages, maybe dropping it bot as an option too. As we go into a replay, we do see that LvMao trying to be the aggressor here does get chunked out a bit early. Scout doing a great job to pick off Kanavi, and then, again, great LeBlanc play coming out from him, weaving in and out of these fights, Clement. You love to see a champion like this.
Man, when I saw Flandre with that play, that was just amazing. Renekton's most difficult part is getting into the backline. He flashed forward, Ruthless Predator, got out the taunt from LvMao, and then sliced and diced onto Kanavi. That was some very, very sick play actually coming out from him, and you know, he's able to just take Kanavi out of the equation before Graves can do anything.
Yeah, again, great play from him. I will say it's also a byproduct of Kanavi being on the complete other side of the fight from the rest of his team. But overall, great mechanical skill coming out from the side of EDG. And this also goes to what we were talking about with JDG, right? Their early games haven't been as on point. This time around, it is a bit of a byproduct of the composition, but still, even in JDG's 1 series win, they 2-0'd BLG. They handedly lost the early game, both games.
Yeah, JD Gaming definitely not looking as sharp as they did in the previous splits. And this game as well, there's already a 4-kill difference between the 2v2s in the mid-jungle. I don't think we're going to see this Graves be able to do anything more than just farm his own lanes. And for me, this is JD Gaming kind of being put into a corner where they can only really come back with a good team fight.
Yeah, and the other exceptional part about this strategy is the fact that it's attacking who has long been the centerpiece of JDG. This is putting a lot of pressure onto Kanavi, where Jiejie has the ability and influence to kind of invade either side of the jungle.
Jiejie is going to come in, and he is spotted. LvMao trying to create some zone for his AD carry, and it looks like he is successful right here. I'm kind of surprised that play went as smooth as it did. However, Kanavi is also going to filter into the bottom side. He's level 8. He's going to be willing to take this one straight on. And we are going to see the 4v4 sort of develop right here. A lot of blinking health bars onto Scout as he takes a paddle star to the face. LvMao is going in for the double man taunt, but Flandre is teleporting to the scene. Meiko goes in, tries to save his mid laner. Is he going to pay for it? No! He actually, the last tick does take him down. Flandre wants to go in, but it was a really good E coming in from Loken. He's actually just stuck there in mid-air without the flash, isn't able to close the distance, and JD Gaming find a miracle skirmish despite the kill discrepancy.
Yagao did so much work in that fight, starting from when he chunked out Scout early, put them in a disadvantageous position, gave LvMao the room to kind of set up that engage, and it's going to lead to one dragon for the side of JDG.
That was such an insane fight because EDG were up by 3,000 gold. They had the kill lead, they had the early teleport, but that's the thing about JD Gaming. They can always come back on these miracle skirmishes. A lot of times, you can outsmart them, but they're just better with the fingers.
And this starts here, right, where we see Scout kind of face-checking into Yagao, gets chunked out very early on. Right now, JDG are in an exceptional position to take this fight, gives LvMao the room to go in. And then again, they're taking Scout of the fight early on. He's already chunked, has to jump away. Meiko kind of forced to engage because he has no way of getting out. They take him down quite early on. And then Flandre is kind of left to dry in the middle of the enemy team.
Really good fighting from JD Gaming. I love LvMao had an exit strategy in mind. He gets a double taunt and then flies out in an instance with the hero's entrance, so it doesn't take much damage from that. We did see the Herald drop for EDG onto the mid lane, and this is before turret platings drop, so Scout does get a good chunk of cold for his troubles.
And like going back to that fight, this is why we talked about, even with this lane matchup specifically, right? It isn't just kind of cut and dry for LeBlanc. Anytime you get hit by Sleepy Trouble Bubble, you're just going to get instantly chunked out. Sure, that was kind of all because of Scout's own making, just face-checking vision. He knew that Yagao was coming around. He actually wanted to be the one to chunk Yagao. It just kind of bit him in the end.
I thought you were going to say bit him in the rear end, but, you know, you're too polite for that one.
I was going to say another word, and then I was like, wait, we're on broadcast. I'm gonna cut this one short.
That's always the trouble with double colors. We have less of a filter on broadcast, so please excuse us. We are going to see Yagao going in for a little bit more poke, getting another summoner in the cleanse right here, which is actually pretty damn useful in this matchup against
it's insane, Clement. It's absolutely insane. Again, the luck he's had with the summoners he's gotten, which I guess to be fair, there really aren't any bad choices in this matchup, whether you get heal, ignite, exhaust, cleanse, like it's all good against LeBlanc, but the frequency he's been getting them, again, very lucky game for Yagao. Still gold advantage for EDG, but hey, if you're 2k gold behind for the likes of JDG's comp, it's actually not too bad.
Yeah, and most notably, Flandre is coming here for a flank. The exhaust does have to go down, and the sleep does stop the Ruthless Predator as well. Very well used on Yagao's side. I didn't think that he would be able to get away from that one, but he does. And now Scout is left to sort of, you know, stop the backs and just kind of get more priority in his own lane.
Yeah, so he's at least going to deny some EXP and gold from Yagao, but Loken and LvMao are here to pick it up, but still, Viper in the bot lane. This is a bit of a gold/EXP advantage on the map for the side of EDG, with all three of their laners picking up golden experience, while JDG are losing out in one lane.
And we do see the mythics sort of be equalized across the players as well. It is going to be a Herald for bot lane trade on the side of JD Gaming. Kind of an interesting one where I don't think they're actually favored out of this one. But Scout going in for some action. He does find the Electrocute, backs out because of Loken's presence. And as we were just mentioning, the trade does continue.
Still, Viper getting a bot lane turret. You're going to get gold. No great location for JDG to use this Herald. I expect him to just drop it mid. Maybe even right now, you already have your four-man stack here.
This feels like a very deliberate trade on the side of JD Gaming, where they definitely lose out on gold to start off. But they're going to have this four-man push where EDG are not yet, have not yet come to terms with what is happening, and they're just going to take a surprise mid lane. This is a very interesting trade, and just JD Gaming thinking 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, JDG, I still think overall lose out on the gold and EXP end of the trade, of course, so it doesn't hurt EDG too much. But it's going to give them a lot of pressure on the map now with that mid lane turret broken down. We've seen Yagao having a lot of pressure in this matchup already. Yagao and Kanavi can just push out that lane and pivot into either side of the enemy jungle.
Very interesting one on that. We're going to have to keep track of how this trade went down and update you on whether EDG got the better side of that or whether JD Gaming with their sneaky Herald got a better side of that. But we are going to be heading into another Drake fight. This technically should be where JDG's composition does come and shine, but EDG are in the jungle first.
Yep, and with Drake coming up in only 20 seconds, this is going to allow a lot of room for Jiejie and Scout especially to try and poke off some of these scattered members of JDG. It's going to be a lot on to zoom, kind of face-checking vision, and being very decisive with the engage for JDG to take a team fight here.
JDG, they never seen a team fight they don't like, and they're going to be the ones starting this one off, opening up onto Meiko. Probably not the best target, but as they finish their combo, they do have to walk away from Flandre. He's going to go into Dominus and just herd everyone away from the dragon. So JD Gaming, they had their attempt, but didn't really work out.
I agree with you though, Clement. You land the Sleepy Chubbable on Meiko, sure, that's good, but throwing out the bullet time in response, not too big of a fan of. Blowing a lot of your team fight damage and burst in that instance. And it also just gave Flandre time to just walk up to your whole comp and make you back off.
Yeah, a bit of a head scratcher on the execution for that one. However, JD Gaming very quick on their feet. They are going to send a 3-man towards the top lane. Kanavi might be in danger though, as he walks into a 4-man squad of EDG and pays the price for it. Okay. Kind of an interesting move. He wonder why he did that.
Clement, are you putting the emphasis on the int part, or
I'm
interesting move?
I'm really just curious why he did that. I feel like he was betting on a reset. I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Was a bit of a misplay coming out from Kanavi, and EDG still holding their kind of stronghold on the game, as we're gonna get a replay. I'm guessing you're right, Clement. He probably was just betting on a reset. Galio doesn't have ultimate, so you can't... I don't think you can expect that Kanavi thinks they're going to be looking for a skirmish, and just gets punished.
Yeah, really weird one, and we're gonna see Jiejie take command of the jungle at this point, 2-0 and 3. Already has a bounty to his name. The Zanya is gonna be the second item coming in, very stock standard for Nidalees that we've seen in the LPL so far. And you know, EDG has been stalled out a little bit. We haven't seen picks necessarily, but they have been winning the team fights.
JDG have been able to kind of take some fights when it's on their terms, but ultimately EDG have been the ones kind of placing on this vision. I really like how they're controlling this game as well, right? We're going to transition into seeing the 1-3-1 setup where neither Zoom or Yagao can really match either side lane. It's going to feel especially bad for the likes of Yagao, who can only catch waves under turret. EDG will have the option to kind of play through that pressure, pivot to river from top side, and then start forcing JDG out through chokes with their poke, like we're seeing on our screen now.
Definitely feels exactly what they're doing, and EDG with the 1-3-1, they do have a lot of kill potential whenever they go into the two-man side lane. We are seeing Loken use the Gale Force aggressively onto Viper, gets half of his HP, and on the right flank, Flandre has to retreat quickly as well, as JD Gaming are very well set up for a full-on team fight.
Yep, and nice way to guarantee pressure and guarantee a way to get into that river. Gale Force having more upfront bursts and Viper with his Kraken Slayer, but I guess it doesn't matter if you found a way to force like pressure in that situation. EDG are still just stronger at this point in time in the game. They walk back into river and JDG have to respect.
Seems like EDG are already playing around the Baron. Wow, half Yagao's HP just gone from one javelin toss. And this is going to be a recurring thing, like you mentioned, you know, they have so much side lane pressure, they're able to constantly force these rotations out, and EDG slowly bleeding JD Gaming.
And they have such a good control of choke points as well with LeBlanc and Nidalee, so it's going to be really hard for JDG to even posture for vision. They're going to continuously do like we just saw, where, right, you force hard 5-man in mid, then you try to pivot to river, but you're at such a gold deficit. Even though it's only 3k, it feels like the item advantages are on the key members of EDG, to where JDG always have to respect.
That being said, I'm a little bit surprised about Kanavi keeping up with the farm from Jiejie. Jiejie did start this game 2-0-0, but afterwards hasn't really been able to take away much from JD Gaming's jungle. So right now the gold has sort of like equalized a little bit. At least we're not seeing Jiejie just take over the game as many Nidalees before this series have done.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Clement. Well, what you're saying is you want to see EDG go in, take those Raptors, and JJ wants to, you know, show Kanavi that he is, you know, the big boss of the jungle.
Yeah, I always kind of feel upset when mid-jungles have a big lead and they don't cash in on it. And unfortunately in the LPL that has been a common occurrence, where teams just sort of, you know, let back and kind of let the game breathe out a little bit, focus on the side lanes or something. But this is what I want out of EDG and Scout, as Scout goes in but gets caught up right here. The bullet time nearly takes him down, and Ornn is here. Scout barely 200 HP, and he finally gets taken down by the collateral damage. Another huge chunk of damage coming in from Yagao as he escorts EDG members out of their own jungle. So maybe I misspoke. Maybe the jungle is poisonous. Maybe JD Gaming is just too damn good at defense.
To be fair, this is why I wanted to highlight the Galio pick earlier before I did cut off, was that Galio is such a good response into the LeBlanc, Kaisa, and Renekton. Obviously, all three of those champions kind of want to jump in and poke their heads in. Galio taught such an efficient way to lock them down, and then your team comp does have so much burst, you can easily pick one member off. Sadly, Scout did go for that. He did have vision. He did know he was jumping into the Galio and just, I guess, didn't respect the damage that would come out. Actually, I was wrong at this point. Oh, no. Yeah, he's the ward, so just Scout not respecting the damage.
The Scout doing Scout things here. I'm so impressed by JD Gaming, willing to use all of their ranged assaults to finally tag down that kill, and it does give a big shutdown over to Kanavi. So, you know, he's going to be even closer to Jiejie in this matchup, and that will also start the Drake stacking for JD Gaming here. We did mention that they do want to play out team fights more, so getting that going is always a plus.
Especially when we're already starting to see the Ornn items come out as well. We already have the upgraded Gale Force for Loken, so again, we're going to get a lot of this kind of free gold and free stats onto the members of JDG to just even help them scale better. But now it's going to be back to controlling the top side for Baron. EDG don't have the fastest Baron, despite the fact that they do have the Kaisa, so I don't really expect to see them turn and look for that play. The fact that JDG don't have map control as well, they're probably just going to keep answering and keep looking to abuse EDG's over-aggression with their CC.
EDG once again making a strong push into the mid lane. Kanavi actually goes in for some damage, just shoos away Scout, makes sure that he can take away this pink ward, gets his own zombie in the brush, and that play is going to sort of fizzle out as we see Scout scurry back to the side lanes.
Yep, and one thing we need to remember about these side lanes, right, and why it's kind of hard to call this a 1-3-1 comp is, like, we're never actually going to really be able to see Flandre pressure turret against the Ornn. He will continuously have the push, but it's a lot more of how he utilizes that push, either with a roam, with a TP, or pulling pressure to him. For Scout, he will have pressure to hit turret if Jiejie is hovering. He does have 1v1 kill pressure onto Yagao, and obviously having the range to hit turret. So if EDG do play around the side lane, it will most likely be for Scout.
Yeah, pretty interesting things here, as we do see a little bit of trading happening into the mid lane. And as you were talking about, in prior seasons, we actually saw the Renekton go for Blade of the Ruin King, not happening this time around. Zumi is going to start the engage. He does find some damage to Meiko. Meiko in a very bad position as a bullet time rings through the entire composition. Flandre is not going to survive this, or is he actually? We do see the volcanic rupture come down, but Flandre is still able to slice and dice his way out of that. Scout goes in for a big chunk of damage, but that is returned as Yagao finds the better kill as the better mid laner here, and JD Gaming are able to finally catch out EDG when they set up for that mid lane push. They're gonna do maximum punishment and most likely take away this Baron.
Yeah, we do see a TP coming out from Flandre, though EDG feeling like they need to contest, which when we talked about how the scaling goes in this game, I definitely agree. Can EDG pull off a miracle steal? I'm not quite sure.
It is going to be all about the steer. Jiejie goes in and he finds the Baron kill 2 series in a row. LPL is absolutely crazy with all of these Baron steals happening. In fact, EDG are going to be the ones with the better end of this deal. They do trade 2 members, but with the Baron buff in hand, you have to put EDG on top.
I love the decision from EDG. They definitely need to go for a steal like this when we already see how the teamfights are going with JDG being at a gold disadvantage. If they'd gotten the Baron, if the gold was even, it would only be so much harder. We are going to get a replay though, Zoom kind of locking members down, followed up with the Galio taunt. There's just too much CC for the members of EDG to handle, especially when their comp is very like low range, once you get close to your chest and be very brawly. JDG just have the tools to deal with that, and then we are going to see Yagao be able to pick off Scout in the end as well.
Yeah, my question right here was, did EDG actually... Oh, Jiejie with such a good fake out. He actually fails the pounce across the wall, but gets the flash nonetheless. So, you know, good mind games right there, or should I say a good save coming out from Jiejie to get the Baron.
Good mistake that ended up not mattering at all, Clement. That's what we love to see here in the LPL. Mistakes not matter.
I think it actually hypnotized JD Gaming, excuse me. Like, when you see a Nidalee faceplant into a wall, but never mind that we're actually going to have another bullet time as Viper did take the Sleepy Bumble to the face, and collateral damage finishes off the deal. Meiko has to pop the Turbo Chem Tank to run away from this one. Ornn sneaks by. He is able to get away and find the Blast Cone to get out, but Viper is not going to be as lucky. Even with the Baron buff, EDG cannot find the push. They are dragged into the mid lane once more. Flandre is still split pushing into the top side. Another Sleepy Trouble Bubble lands, and Scout can no longer defend his own base.
And still, like, it doesn't matter what kind of comp EDG have. At this point, JDG just sent 5 men mid. They have Zoom absorb all the poke, and they're able to kind of do whatever they want. In response, Flandre is using his side lane advantage to get some objectives for himself. But for JDG, you just got an inhibitor, you won out big, you're going to be able to get this 3rd Drake as well and put yourselves on soul point.
Man, JD Gaming just don't care. You can side lane all day, we're just going to run straight down mid, close in on the deal, we have the better engages, and walk me through this, Lyric.
Yeah, we do see that EDG do just overstay, and no CC really needed in the end. They throw this out. Of course, Viper did get locked down to begin with. They have enough burst coming out from the Paddle Star and the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. I'm sorry, followed by the collateral damage, and he's just instantly burst.
That was a blind killsteal cam. Kanavi did not have Viper in range of his monitor. He didn't see Viper, but he knew where he was. He finds him with the collateral damage. Great play right there. And once again, it feels like JD Gaming, you know, they are coming out ahead in terms of these skirmishes, in terms of just finding those opportunities where EDG don't really expect the push coming.
Yeah, and also interesting as we see on this that Loken having 100% kill participation. It has felt like a lot of the pick tools have enabled him to be one of the big damage dealers in a lot of these fights. Again, the Ornn ultimate, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and the taunt coming out from LvMao. And JDG is going to keep using their pressure mid to hover two sides as a 5-man core and take the objectives they want.
This is such a JD Gaming play where they just say, hey, we don't care what you do on the side lanes. We're going to go for the juggler and force the 5v4 to actually happen. We're going to make you come to us where we can set up the vision. And it's just so interesting that teams can continuously do this and sort of ignore side lanes and get away.
And again, it makes sense when we've talked about ever since the changes to like Drakes and Soul and all of this, that it just has seemed better to have this sort of like 5-man death ball composition that, sure, you're going to lose some turrets, but you're going to be able to continuously take those 5v5s like you've been highlighting, and you're going to be the team at the end of the day who's going to walk away with more Drakes and get that Soul.
I guess here is one of the most common questions, but the one that I have to ask as a play-by-play is, how does EDG actually win the next team fight? Because it does seem like, sure, they're still up in gold, but in terms of the 5v5s, nothing really good has come of it.
Clement, I am the ultimate pessimist. I don't think EDG have a way of winning the 5v5 unless JDG make a mistake, right? Maybe you send Scout on a flank. He tries to pick off a member like Yagao. Probably can't get Loken because Loken does have the cleanse, but pick off the Zoe from a flank. I think other than that, obviously you'd want to be looking for the side lane kill with Scout. The problem is, like you said, JDG are just ignoring the side lanes. You can't find the side lane pick off into the 5v4 if JDG just say, hey, take our side lane turrets. It doesn't matter.
I really want to see JD Gaming against G2 at the end of the year. I feel like this is such a different contrast in styles where you really expect G2 to continue the push. They're going to go like, hey, we're just going to go all the way to inhibitors. We're going to take this. And Wonder's not actually going to come back and defend. While on the other side, JD Gaming is, like you were mentioning, death ball all the way to the Nexus. So, you know, if we get that matchup, it's definitely going to be hype.
Yep, but again, going to the next fight, it does feel like a lot of this is into maybe Scout, mostly Scout's hands. You need to be able to catch out Yagao when he's not in a position of safety. The problem is he has a Banshee's Veil, and typically LvMao is always doing a pretty good job of being sandwiched right in between his two primary carries.
Yeah, there has been no opportunities given whatsoever. LvMao doing a great job with this red side counter pick. And just to take a look at the items, Loken is also beefing up on his defensive, going for more of the traditional crit build, and also getting the Hex Drinker. He's going to fly in and find some damage onto Jiejie, nearly takes him down. The Sleepy Trouble does land, and it forces EDG all the way back. Lots of room created for JD Gaming to rush this Baron, and that's exactly what they're going to do. The Baron already down 3,000 HP. Scout is going to find an angle into the pit. He's on the backside. He's unspotted. His damage could potentially steal this Baron, and are we going to see a second Baron steal? That's going to be the question. Scout does go in. He forces away the jungler right here, and the Baron is still going to go down to Kanavi, but EDG do have the numbers advantage as Scout is swarming from the backline. He does found the kill onto Loken. This is turning into a disaster for JD Gaming. They've lost 4 members on the map. Only Yagao alive, and that was not worth it for JD Gaming.
Yeah, and EDG should at least be able to get an inhibitor off this. Very sad to see for JDG. That really wasn't much of a team fight, Clement. We saw them just kind of all in on the Baron, and it exposed a lot of angles for EDG to play from, as Yagao is trying to delay the push, but I think he might just go down in the end as well.
Yeah, he's playing the keep away. He does find the blast cone onto Meiko, but he's sandwiched by so many different EDG members. Somehow he's still walking around his towers trying to defend against the onslaught of EDG. We do see LvMao come in. He does find the kill onto Scout very unexpectedly. This is going to be a 4v2 with Jiejie taking down the Nexus, and finally EDG, after a Baron throw from JD Gaming, are able to close down this game in surprising fashion.
I was going to say, Clement, I honestly didn't expect that to end. Obviously, my judge of death timers is not all that good, but yeah, honestly, this for a long time was EDG's game to lose, and then comfortably JDG should have won this game. But then we see that play at Baron, And I feel like the biggest problem for me was we were highlighting how good the Galio pick was into the Renekton LeBlanc so much of this game. LvMao went to go zone off the other members of EDG, which left room for both LeBlanc and Renekton to just jump on the 4-man stack that was on Baron, and they were pretty much just able to burst everyone.
Galio was the first one to die in that team fight, so unable to use the taunt to prevent his backline, to protect his backline, like you were mentioning. I do wish we get a replay of that one, but how do you feel about this new EDG, the more classical EDG, where you see Scout on an assassin pick, them trying to push tempo early and trying to control the map?
It's weird, because I actually think they looked a lot more promising in this game than in a lot of their other wins, which is hilarious to think when they shouldn't have won this game realistically, but I also feel like that could just be a lot due to the nature of the meta. Like we said, just being able to stack up neutral objectives and it being much harder to force plays when the enemy team just can't ignore you where you're strong like JDG did this time. So I realistically think EDG probably should just go back to forcing those 5-man deathball comps as well, but this was a nice breath of fresh air, and for the first 15 minutes of the game, it was very clean from EDG.
Yep, EDG had the winning bot lane from the get-go, they had a great Herald play, and they were able to out-duel JD Gaming's 5-man for the early 2 objectives. The mid-game was a little bit more messy. I definitely saw some of the old Scout coming back into the foray, and but at the end of the day, EDG with those Baron steals, with that tremendous Baron play, able to secure the deal. This one was a very, very close game, and for the next game, as JD Gaming have the side selection coming into this one, do you think there's anything they need to change here?
For JDG, I actually like their comp quite a bit. I don't really think there's anything they need to change. Sure, they did fall behind probably a bit too far early on, but let's be honest, Clement, this was JDG's game to win. And sure, their early game is going to be a bit rough going forward, but I don't feel like that's anything uncommon for JDG. So I don't necessarily think they need to change anything in terms of strategy.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just ride with what you're